This message is issued by the Emergency Coordination Center. Please listen closely and follow the instructions that follow. This is not a drill. At approximately 4:23 a.m. Eastern Standard Time this morning, monitoring stations across 6 time zones began reporting what can only be described as impossible astronomical readings. Our solar observation satellites detected a complete absence of our sun's electromagnetic signature, while simultaneously registering lunar reflectance patterns emanating from the sun's expected position. I need you to understand this clearly. If you look outside right now and see what appears to be bright daylight, but the light source looks like the moon, do not continue looking at it. The phenomenon began manifesting in the pre-dawn hours along the eastern seaboard. Our Goddard Space Flight Center lost all contact with our solar monitoring array at exactly 4:19 a.m. The final transmission showed normal solar activity, then complete blackout for 47 seconds, followed by signals indicating our actual sun had been replaced by a lunar body maintaining identical luminosity output. This should be physically impossible according to every law of astrophysics we understand. By 4:45 a.m., emergency dispatch centers from Maine to Florida were receiving calls from early morning commuters, joggers, and shift workers reporting the wrong kind of daylight. Callers described sunlight that felt cold on their skin, cast sharp shadows with unusual color properties, and seemed to pulse rhythmically rather than maintaining steady illumination. Most disturbing, multiple witnesses reported that looking directly at this false sun revealed surface features identical to our moon's familiar crater patterns, but magnified and intensely bright. The first documented case involved a newspaper delivery driver named Marcus Webb in Concord, New Hampshire. At 5:12 a.m., Marcus called his dispatcher to report that something was wrong with the sunrise. He said the light was too white, too clean, and that despite the apparent brightness, he felt cold. When his dispatcher asked him to describe what he was seeing, Marcus went silent for nearly 2 minutes. When he spoke again, his voice had changed completely, flat, emotionless. He said, "The moon is pretending to be the sun, but it's still watching us. I can see the face in it, and it sees me too." Marcus never completed his delivery route. His truck was found idling in a residential driveway, driver's door open, newspapers scattered across the street. A construction crew in Baltimore had a similar encounter around 5:30 a.m. Foreman Janet Rodriguez was coordinating the morning shift when she noticed her workers had all stopped what they were doing and were staring eastward. She followed their gaze and saw what she initially thought was an unusually bright full moon, still visible despite the daylight. But as she looked longer, she realized the light wasn't coming from the real sun at all. This moon thing was providing all the illumination for the morning sky. Janet tried to get her crew's attention, but they remained frozen, staring upward. She noticed their pupils were dilated to pinpoint dots despite the bright light, and they were all breathing in perfect synchronization. When she touched one worker's shoulder, he turned to her with a blank expression and said, "It's time to pay attention. The real sun was just practice." More reports flooded in as the morning progressed. A school bus driver in Richmond, Virginia pulled over when she realized all the children on her bus had pressed their faces against the windows, staring at the sky. She tried to continue her route, but the children became agitated when trees or buildings blocked their view of the false sun. They began humming in unison, a low frequency that made the bus windows vibrate. When she reached the first school, the children refused to exit the bus. They said they needed to keep watching because the moon sun has messages for us. The driver called for assistance, but when emergency responders arrived, they found the children sitting in perfect silence, all facing the same direction, all with those same dilated pupils. In Washington, D.C., a jogger named Robert Kim was running his usual route along the Potomac when he noticed his shadow behaving strangely. Instead of the normal shadow cast by sunlight, his shadow appeared to be moving independently, several seconds behind his actual movements. When he stopped to examine this phenomenon, he noticed that the light creating his shadow was coming from a moon-like object positioned where the sun should be. Robert attempted to photograph this with his cell phone, but every image came out completely white, as if overexposed, despite his camera's automatic adjustment. When he looked at his phone's screen, however, he could see his own reflection, except his reflected self was smiling and pointing upward. Robert was found 3 hours later by park rangers, standing motionless on a bridge, staring directly upward with severe retinal damage. He kept repeating, "The moon knows it's not supposed to be there, but it's there anyway." A grocery store in Norfolk, Virginia became the site of a mass incident around 7 a.m. The store's automatic doors had been malfunctioning, opening and closing rapidly, but customers arriving for early shopping noticed that each time the doors opened, they framed a perfect view of the anomalous lunar sun. Store manager Patricia Lopez reviewed security footage and discovered that 43 customers had entered the store over a 2-hour period, but none had moved beyond the entrance area. They all stood just inside the automatic doors, which continued cycling open and closed, giving them intermittent views of the sky. The customers showed no interest in shopping. They simply waited for each glimpse of the false sun, and with each sighting, their expressions became more peaceful and distant. We've identified a clear progression in affected individuals' behavior. Stage 1 involves initial recognition that something is fundamentally wrong with the daylight. People report feeling unsettled or confused by the quality of illumination, often describing it as artificial or wrong. This stage typically lasts 15 to 30 minutes, during which individuals may seek confirmation from others or attempt to photograph the anomaly. Stage 2 manifests as compulsive observation behavior. Affected individuals become unable to look away from the false sun for extended periods, despite obvious discomfort or physical symptoms like dilated pupils and tearing. They report feeling that the lunar surface features visible in the bright light are trying to communicate or contain important information they need to decode. During this stage, individuals often lose awareness of their immediate surroundings and may wander into traffic or other dangerous situations while maintaining upward focus. Stage 3 involves what our behavioral specialists are calling solar replacement acceptance. Affected individuals begin insisting that this new arrangement is correct and that our previous sun was somehow defective or inferior. They become agitated when prevented from observing the false sun and may attempt to force others to look upward. Most concerning, Stage 3 subjects begin reporting that they can hear the lunar sun speaking to them, providing instructions or information about upcoming changes to reality. The fourth and final stage appears to involve complete integration with whatever intelligence is controlling this phenomenon. Stage 4 subjects speak with absolute certainty about the temporary nature of human existence and the necessity of preparing for the next phase. They work together with mechanical precision to position mirrors, windows, and reflective surfaces to maximize exposure to the false sun's light. They show no concern for their physical well-being and seem genuinely confused by others' distress about the situation. For your immediate protection, avoid direct observation of the current light source, regardless of how normal it may appear. The intensity and spectral properties of the lunar sun can cause permanent retinal damage within seconds of direct viewing. More critically, prolonged exposure appears to trigger the behavioral changes I've described. If you must go outside during daylight hours, wear dark sunglasses and keep your eyes focused on the ground or straight ahead, never upward. Close all blinds, curtains, and shutters immediately. Cover any skylights, mirrors, or reflective surfaces that might redirect the anomalous light. We've received reports that even reflected exposure can trigger initial stages of the behavioral modification process. If you notice neighbors or family members spending unusual amounts of time looking out windows or standing in areas with direct overhead exposure, do not confront them directly. Instead, contact emergency services and report possible lunar sun exposure. Do not attempt to photograph or record the current light source. Electronic devices exposed to the lunar sun appear to malfunction in ways that can spread the influence to anyone viewing the corrupted images or video. Multiple reports describe cameras and phones displaying impossible images, photos of the viewer themselves looking upward, videos that show the lunar surface moving and shifting, screens that continue displaying the false sun even when the device is powered off. Trust your physical sensations over your visual perception. If the light feels cold on your skin despite appearing bright, if shadows seem too sharp or move independently, if you experience unexplained feelings of being watched from above, these are reliable indicators that you're being exposed to the anomalous phenomenon. Seek indoor shelter immediately and avoid further exposure until the situation stabilizes. Our astronomical teams are working to understand this displacement event, but preliminary analysis suggests we're dealing with something that operates outside conventional physics. The object maintaining our sun's position exhibits lunar surface features and reflected light properties while generating solar-level illumination through unknown means. Its electromagnetic signature doesn't match either solar or lunar patterns in our databases. International space agencies report similar phenomena appearing in their observation zones as Earth's rotation brings different regions into alignment with the false sun. The pattern suggests this isn't limited to our immediate area but represents a global replacement event. Our colleagues in Europe are reporting identical displacement readings, and early communications from Asia indicate the phenomenon maintains consistency across all affected regions. Military installations with space tracking capabilities have detected what appears to be our actual sun in an impossible orbital position approximately 47 million miles beyond its normal location. This displaced sun maintains its normal electromagnetic output, but provides no illumination to Earth's surface. Instead, all terrestrial solar energy is being supplied by the lunar body that has assumed the sun's position and luminosity function. More disturbing, our Deep Space Monitoring Array has detected similar displacement events in 3 nearby star systems over the past 18 months. In each case, the original star was moved to a distant orbital position while a lunar-type body assumed primary illumination duties for the inhabited planets in those systems. Communications from those systems ceased entirely within 6 months of their respective displacement events. We're coordinating with underground facilities worldwide to maintain communication networks independent of surface-based infrastructure. However, personnel at several installations have reported that the anomalous light penetrates deeper than normal sunlight, reaching areas that should be completely shielded from surface illumination. These deep underground exposures are triggering the same behavioral modifications observed in surface populations. The most troubling development is evidence that affected individuals are actively working to maximize exposure among unaffected populations. In cities where significant portions of the population have reached stage 3 or 4 behavioral modification, organized groups are systematically removing protective barriers from buildings, redirecting reflective surfaces to spread the anomalous light into shielded areas, and employing increasingly sophisticated methods to compel others to look upward. An emergency coordinator in Richmond reported that affected individuals had organized into coordinated teams and were going door to door with mirrors and reflective panels, claiming to be sharing the beautiful new sunlight. When refused entry, these groups would position their mirrors to redirect the lunar sun's light through windows, mail slots, or any available opening. The coordinator noted that these individuals worked with inhuman precision and seemed to know exactly which angles would maximize light exposure for building occupants. I need to share something that may be difficult to accept. Based on spectroscopic analysis of the anomalous light source, our team believes we're observing a deliberate terraforming process. The lunar body providing our current illumination isn't simply mimicking solar output. It's gradually altering the light's spectral composition in ways that favor different atmospheric chemistry. Over extended exposure, Earth's environment will transform to match conditions more suitable for whatever intelligence orchestrated this replacement. The affected populations aren't victims of this process. they're willingly participating in it. Stage 4, subjects consistently describe the displacement as necessary and beneficial, explaining that our original sun was wasteful and imprecise compared to the focused, intelligent illumination now provided by the lunar replacement. They speak of upcoming phases in which Earth's atmosphere, geology, and biology will be optimized for what they call proper functionality. If you're currently in a shielded location, remain there indefinitely. Surface conditions are no longer predictable, and the affected population is actively working to prevent others from avoiding exposure. Do not trust emergency services or official communications unless they're transmitted from verified underground facilities. Many surface-based authorities have been compromised by extended exposure to the lunar sun. Remember that the light source currently illuminating our world is not our sun, despite appearances. It's something else. Something that's learning to mimic solar behavior while gradually transforming our environment for purposes we don't understand. The people you see standing peacefully in that false sunlight aren't experiencing normal daylight. They're being systematically modified to serve whatever intelligence replaced our star. Stay underground, stay in the dark, and remember, if you see the moon where the sun should be, don't look directly at it, no matter how bright and beautiful it appears. This is Emergency Broadcast Protocol Solar Displacement 1. Maintain shelter until our actual sun returns to its proper position, if it ever does.